to my knowledge, DoD officials have not spoken specifically to Russian authorities on this particular incident. I do know that the State Department is raising our concerns about the incident directly with the Russian government, so I'd refer you to them for details on that. In terms of the mission of the MQ-9, as I mentioned, it's an ISR platform. You know, these aircraft have been flying over the Black Sea region for some time, to include before the current conflict started. It is an important and busy international waterway, and so it is not an uncommon mission for us to be flying in international airspace.
And so what kind of precautions are you taking going forward? Are you going to have armed accompanying aircraft, or and was this aircraft armed?
So I'm not going to get into the specific profile of this particular aircraft. As you know, the MQ-9 does have the ability to be armed. It was, again, conducting an ISR mission in international airspace, something that we've been doing for some time. In terms of the types of techniques, and procedures that we take to protect our aircraft, I'm not going to get into the specifics. I think the key point here is that while intercepts in and of themselves are not that uncommon, the fact that this type of behavior from these Russian pilots, that is uncommon and unfortunate and unsafe. And so, again, would echo General Hecker's call on the Russians to continue to fly safely. Thank you. Liz?
Thank you, Pat. Thanks. Was this collision itself?
Pues vamos a volver hasta allí, pero le está quitando hierro al asunto. De momento, efectivamente, se confirma desde les contábamos esa última hora, desde el Ministerio de Defensa ruso decían que no se había disparado. Existen ciertas teorías sobre si se le ha descargado combustible, sobre cómo se ha estropeado. De momento lo están investigando, están esperando, dicen, pero efectivamente dicen que no se ha producido ese ataque como tal. Sí que es verdad que el vuelo ha sido interceptado. Volvemos hasta allí, volvemos con Ryder, con el secretario de Defensa del Pentágono.
Aircraft dumping fuel in front of this UAV. And then getting so close to the aircraft that it actually damaged the propeller on the MQ-9. We assess that it likely caused some damage to the Russian aircraft as well. To our knowledge, well, we know that the aircraft, the Russian aircraft did land. I'm not going to go into where they landed. But again, it's just demonstrative of very unprofessional, unsafe airmanship on the part of these pilots.
Thank you. One more question, sorry.
Le van a repreguntar, pero dice que es una actitud muy irresponsable por parte del piloto, que efectivamente parece que se trata de un accidente en una extraña maniobra por encima del UAV, del avión de reconocimiento del dron no tripulado de Estados Unidos, y que tienen constancia de que no era la idea del piloto ruso terminar aterrizando y que ha tenido que hacer un aterrizaje de emergencia porque también se ha visto dañado en este choque con el avión de reconocimiento estadounidense. Volvemos hasta allí, vamos a escuchar a Pat Ryder. Parece que efectivamente se trata de una suerte de accidente. De momento, el propio Ryder lo que está es hablando de, bueno, poca seguridad, poca vigilancia y poca profesionalidad.
It was international airspace. And then, I'm sorry, the other part of your question?
The video.
Yes, so we are going through the declassification process now, and we'll keep you updated on that front in terms of imagery associated with this incident. Travis. I'm laser focused on your question.
That was just a very quick one. You haven't said Reaper, but he said Reaper. Is it accurate to say it's MQ-9 Reaper?
I'm just going to stick with MQ-9. Yep, thanks. Joe.
Hi, thanks so much.
Bueno, despeja preguntas también sobre exactamente lo ocurrido. Cuando habla de ese MK-29 está hablando precisamente de ese avión. Lo digo por si quieren ustedes hacerse la idea de esto. Insisto, por lo que parece, ambas versiones empiezan a parecerse mucho. Desde el Ministerio de Defensa ruso se habla de que un piloto en una serie de maniobras ha chocado accidentalmente, que no ha habido ningún disparo, ni se ha lanzado ningún tipo de arsenal ni de armamento contra el UAV, contra el avión de reconocimiento, contra ese MK-29 estadounidense. Y desde Estados Unidos admite que efectivamente es poco profesional, pero parece que eso es lo que ha ocurrido. Volvemos hasta allí, volvemos con Pat Ryder. Vamos a evaluar exactamente qué se está diciendo.
Crash it into the Black Sea. To my knowledge, at this point in time, the Russians have not recovered that aircraft. But again, in terms of our recovery efforts, don't have any updates to provide right now. I'd refer you to Navier in terms of what assets they may have in that region. Thank you. Janie?
Thank you, General. Regarding the North Korea's submarine launch strategic cruise missiles recently, North Korea has announced that it is possible to mount a nuclear warhead on a strategic cruise missiles. What is the readiness of the United States against the escalated provocations such as the nuclear provocation by the North Korea?
Let me just make sure I understand. What's the readiness of the U.S. to respond to a nuclear provocation by North Korea? Well, I think we've been very clear that were North Korea to employ a nuclear weapon, it would be the end of the North Korean regime. But again, our focus continues to be on working very closely with our allies and our partners in the region to deter.
Bueno, le preguntan ahora por Corea del Norte, que iba a decir Norcorea, por Corea del Norte, que cuáles son las consecuencias de que Corea del Norte pudiera utilizar armamento nuclear, y acaba de ser clarísimo para Ryder. Dice, lo hemos dicho en otras ocasiones, si Corea del Norte utiliza armamento nuclear es el fin del régimen de Corea del Norte. Volvemos hasta allí a ver si esclarecemos más esa tensión, esa escalada entre Estados Unidos y Rusia, y a ver, porque de momento no han hablado entre departamentos de defensa, pero es verdad que están dando una versión muy similar de lo ocurrido. Entendemos también que Estados Unidos posee el vídeo del avión no tripulado, del dron no tripulado que ha sido derribado y que por tanto es capaz de saber cómo ha sido derribado. Pareciera efectivamente que en una extraña maniobra el piloto ruso lo hubiera derribado. Volvemos hasta allí, volvemos con Paz Ryder.
Since the beginning of this campaign, we're continuing to do everything that we can to ensure that we're meeting Ukraine's needs, whether it's ammunition, whether it's air defense, armor. You've heard us talk extensively about that. Tomorrow's discussion, of course, will be another opportunity to bring the international community together to focus on Ukraine's most urgent needs, to include ammunition. And so, again, that will continue to be our focus, and you've heard Secretary Austin and others say that we're committed to making sure that they have what they need to be successful.
Is there an assessment on why they're running out of ammunition? I'm sorry. Thanks. Is there an assessment that the Pentagon has on why they're running out of ammunition? Is it because they're just expending it too fast? Is it not making it to the battlefield in time? What's your assessment?
Yeah, really. So I'd have to refer you to the Ukrainians to talk about their specific efforts to supply their individual units. Again, we're working very closely with them and our international partners to get them what they need. And I think it's also important to kind of take a step back and look at the progress that has been made while recognizing the fact that there still is a tough fight ahead, particularly as we go into the spring and summer. And so our focus, again, is going to be working with national armaments directors, with the Ukrainians to get them the ammunition they need and get that to the frontline units as quickly as possible. Let me go back over to this side of the room. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Can you guide us through the timeline of the MQ-9 intercept? We have that the aircraft was struck at 7:03 Eastern time, but how long were the Sukhois with the aircraft beforehand? And were there any radio calls between radio communications either from the Russians or from the United States?
Yeah, so on the latter part of your question, no, none that I'm aware of. I would ask that you go back and confirm this with UCOM, but based on the information I have here, it seems like approximately 30 to 40 minutes they were flying in the vicinity of this MQ-9, and then at 7:03 is when the 7:03 a.m. Central European time is when they collided, causing it to crash. So, Qasim.
Le preguntan a Paz Ryder, ¿sabes si ha habido alguna comunicación por parte de los pilotos rusos hacia Estados Unidos diciendo que estaban teniendo problemas con uno de los aviones que sobrevolaba cerca de ese UAV y que podía haber problemas con el avión estadounidense, con el dron estadounidense? Y dice, por la información que tengo, es una pregunta que todavía no hemos evaluado, no le consta al propio Paz Ryder, pero dice que por la información que tiene, pareciera que han estado volando en trayectorias similares durante 40 minutos y que aproximadamente, lo que les decíamos aquí, casi en medio del propio programa, en el entorno de las 7:30 de la tarde, hora central europea, pues se ha producido ese choque entre el avión ruso y el dron de reconocimiento estadounidense, que se han visto obligados a derribarlo sobre el Mar Negro. El piloto ruso, por su parte, se ha visto obligado a realizar un aterrizaje de emergencia que sí le consta también, dice Paz Ryder, no lo tenía en su hoja de ruta, no estaba previsto. Volvemos hasta el Pentágono.
In terms of intercepts, but again, as I highlighted, the fact that intercepts of aircraft are not uncommon in and of themselves. It's not obviously a daily occurrence. The vast majority of those intercepts are what we would consider safe and professional, just wanting to see what's there, right? You're flying alongside it to to be able to see what's there. In this particular case, though, again, they collided with the aircraft, damaging the propeller, and essentially putting in a situation where it was unflyable and uncontrollable, so we brought it down. Thank you. Time for a few more. I'll go here and then to Fadi.
Vamos a ir con dos preguntas más. Empieza a ser raro todo, ¿eh? No es extraño que de repente intercepten los UAVs por parte de Rusia, lo ha dicho el propio secretario de Defensa, John Kirby, hace un ratito. Pero empieza a ser raro todo lo que empieza a rodear este incidente, sobre todo porque pareciera, empiezan a especular algunos analistas internacionales, enseguida vamos a preguntar a los expertos que están también aquí al otro lado de la pantalla en Negocios Televisión, pero empieza a ser raro que se haya derribado este avión de reconocimiento, este MQ-29. Vamos a ver si es que no estaba captando algún tipo de información que para Rusia no debiera. Vamos a tratar de adivinar y de vislumbrar un poquito, de echar luz sobre esta escena que desde luego se está volviendo una auténtica película de espías. Volvemos hasta el Pentágono, escuchamos a Ryder con estas últimas dos preguntas.
MQ-9 was flying near Ukraine or near the Crimea Peninsula, and then I believe you said, if I heard right, that the Russians did not recover the drone. However, have you seen any effort by the Russian Navy to try to recover the drone? Thank you.
Yeah, so on your latter question there, Fadi, I'm not going to get into that. In terms of where it was flying, it was well clear of any territory in Ukraine. It was over international airspace, over international water. So, thank you. Nancy.
Thank you. During Secretary Austin's visit to Egypt, he held meetings with officials even though all press were banned from covering it. Past defense chiefs, when they've been in a similar situation, have refused to proceed. Given that the Biden administration has said that one of its key pillars in terms of foreign policy is that when presented with a choice between autocrats and democracies, that it stands with democracies, can you help us understand why the Secretary decided to proceed with those trips given the ban, and should we expect that going forward? Thank you.
Thank you. So our relationship with Egypt is obviously a very important strategic partnership. The Secretary did appreciate the opportunity to meet with his counterparts and talk about that. I will tell you, when it came to the press coverage of that portion, having looked further into it, the Egyptians lived up to what they had agreed upon. Some of the lessons learned out of that was in terms of making sure that we were on the same sheet when it came to understanding press access, and so we will continue to work that.
I'm sorry, could you clarify, the U.S. had agreed beforehand that there would be a ban of journalists?
We did not agree to a ban on journalists. We agreed to have official photographers. We did have one reporter come into one of the sessions, but then a portion that was going to be open to the press was subsequently not held, and therefore there was not an opportunity to cover that. But again, sometimes these meetings are very small. Sometimes there's not the opportunity for media to come in. But again, it's something that we've noted, and we'll continue to work closely with governments as we visit to ensure that there's press access. Thank you. Sir.
Bueno, ya casi preguntando también por otro tipo de cuestiones, Pat Ryder hablando también de las relaciones con Ucrania, con la prensa en determinados puntos, etcétera, etcétera. Desde luego, con un tercio totalmente cambiado, no refiriéndose ya a ese avión. A estas horas, si se están ustedes incorporando a esta narración, a este directo de Negocios Televisión, les contamos, como no puede ser de otra manera, que lo que ha ocurrido es que varios aviones rusos volaban, hasta 3 al parecer, cerca de un MQ-29, un avión de reconocimiento, un dron no tripulado de reconocimiento estadounidense, y que el dron finalmente, tras una serie de maniobras de uno de los pilotos rusos que ha llegado a chocar con el UAV, ha roto una de las hélices. Estados Unidos ha tenido que derribar su propio dron en el Mar Negro. Los pilotos rusos sí han llegado a tierra, han podido aterrizar, uno de ellos con una suerte de aterrizaje, decía Pat Ryder, que no estaba previsto que lo hiciera de esa manera, pero que también se ha visto dañado por el choque. Al parecer se confirma esa información. Desde el Ministerio de Defensa ruso aseguran que no se ha disparado nada, que ha sido un accidente y que desde luego no han utilizado armamento de ningún tipo en lo ocurrido, que no se trataba de una acción en este sentido hostil. Volvemos con Pat Ryder, volvemos hasta el Pentágono.
Throughout all the services. And so I think in a lot of ways, as that communication has increased, you're seeing some of the fruits of that labor. But again, I'd refer you to the Air Force for specifics on their budget. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.